Hey everyone, it's Sean. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through how to use the pen tool and the lasso tool in Photoshop to smoothly cut someone out of an image and also go in and use the refine edge tool and sort of fix up a little bit of areas around the hair and just create a really crisp overall cutout of someone for your own work. To get started, I've given you guys a couple of images to work from. We're going to start with the smooth hair option here. And if you just want to open that up in Photoshop, we can get going. If you're like me and you use Photoshop for most of your image needs, you can actually right click on this image and do this cool option here. It's under Get Info, and the Get Info dialog box will show up. And right now, all of my images are set to open in preview, the application preview. I don't really like that. You can actually click on this and hit Adobe Photoshop 2020 and then hit Change All and then hit Continue. That's if you want your images to constantly open in Photoshop. Personally, this works really well for my workflow, but it's totally up to you guys if you want to make that adjustment. So go ahead, open it up in Photoshop like I have here, and you'll find you have an image that's exactly this image, and we can get going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit P on my keyboard to bring up the pen tool, which is just over here on your left hand side. The pen tool is incredibly useful for creating really intricate and specific masks. We could use the lasso tool for this, but honestly, I just find the lasso tool gets really messy, and I don't really want to have to deal with a huge mess. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to go and loosely outline around our guy here, and I'm sticking just to the inside of the shape of his sweater. This is just because it sort of follows the shape of what he's wearing, but I don't have to worry about getting any of our white background involved in here. And the nice thing about this is you don't have to be super specific. You can just sort of loosely put pen anchor points down where you think is going to work best. And then after we finish building our mask, we can go in and sort of refine our selection a bit. So really useful technique here. Sometimes when you get more of these complicated curves and stuff, you do have to put a few more markers down than you would normally, but not the end of the world. All right, cool. And sometimes the ears can be a little bit tricky too. And when it comes to the hair, what we can do is we can actually sort of just go on the outside of the hair a little bit, even into the white space. It's going to be totally fine because we're going to go in and use the refine edge tool and really do a good job at cleaning this up. Oftentimes when we use the when we go and mask people out, if you're not aware of this technique, then what can happen is you have to end up dealing with all of the white that's sort of inside of the hairline. And it gets pretty tricky because a lot of people just go in, use their eraser tool and start hacking away at it, and it becomes a really non-believable crop job to pull somebody out of an image. And I know this seems a little bit silly. The work like this is, it's a little bit, just grunt work and not super exciting, but I promise you that this is a skill that will come in handy throughout your entire design career. You're always going to have a project come up at some point where you're going to have to cut somebody out of its original image, if it's to put them in another image or even just to sort of make them look nicer in the background that they're in. So I have my path, it's completely closed. We've gone around this guy. It looks pretty good. With my pen tool still selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to hit Make Selection. I don't want there to be a feather radius for this because I want it to have a nice crisp edge. When you feather something, it creates a really soft edge, and for now, we're just going to keep that at 0. So I'm going to hit OK. And we have our selection. It looks pretty good, but we know that we still have some issues up in the hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit L on my keyboard to open up my lasso tool. It's just over here on the left-hand side. And when you have your lasso tool selected, you'll see that there's a few options up top here. I want to look at this select and mask. This is going to bring me into the refine edge tool, and it's just a really beautiful tool to work with when cutting people out because it just allows you to have a lot more control over the subject matter. If you guys are using this for the first time, you might see that it's set to this option called onion skin. That's fine, but if you're working on white sort of backgrounds, you'll never see what you're actually working on. You could also use marching ants or any of these other options. Personally, I've always found overlay to be the best option. If we had a background that was actually a proper background, not just pure white, you would see all those details show through as well. But basically, everything that's pink is what's going to be stripped away, and everything that's left in color is what's going to stay. So I'm going to keep overlay turned on, and now we have the ability, you can change the opacity of the overlay pink color. You could even change the color of that pink color to be something else. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. And we have a bunch of different options here that we can go in and adjust, but I'm going to leave those alone for now. And I want to come up over here to the left-hand side where we have all these different options. You might be set to the quick selection tool. That's fine. I personally don't find it really works well for me. I'm not a big fan of it. It doesn't really... Yeah, it just kind of makes the situation worse, to be perfectly honest with you. And what I would actually like to do is come down and use this Refine Edge Brush tool. It's the second one from the top. You can use your square bracket keys on your keyboard to increase the size of your brush, or you could come up here and change the size of your brush as well. I'm just a big keyboard guy, so I use the keyboard shortcuts whenever I can. And what we're going to do is we're just going to brush over this white section, kind of coming down towards his ears. You don't want to go too close over the hair. You just really want to try and stick within the white spaces. And what the Refine Edge Brush tool is doing is it's looking for differences in contrast from the main colors within your selection compared to the sort of secondary colors. And it is going to sort of do the calculation and understand that you're trying to remove the white, or the background in this case, and we can sort of just go along the top of his head here and start getting rid of the rest of the white. You can do this in one long move like I'm going to do, or you can do it in smaller moves if you want to have the ability to undo more steps. It's totally up to you. Sometimes if you go in a really long movement though, your computer will take a few seconds to catch up to you. For some reason today mine is really having a hard time, and it's, you know, sounding like a jet engine's about to go off. So it might take me a little bit longer, but you can also really shrink down the size of your brush. You can zoom in a little bit more if you want to. We can come in here and we can get rid of this super fine strip of white that's in there. Beautiful. Great. And so if you just hit Command 0 on your keyboard, it'll snap you back to the full resolution of the image, and you can see already just the quality that you're going to get from this hair sort of refine edge. I'm just going to go in here and adjust this little tiny piece too. You can get really picky with this, which is phenomenal. I love the ability to be picky when it comes to cropping people out. I'm just going to clean up a bit of his sweater because I missed it. Okay, cool. So that looks pretty great to me. So when you've got your selection and you're happy with it, the next thing that you can do is just come down here and hit OK. So that doesn't automatically crop him out. You've just adjusted the mask, or the selection rather, that we've been working on building this whole time. So with your selection tool, or with your lasso tool still activated, L on your keyboard or lasso tool up here, we can right click and we can choose how we want to remove our guy here. We can cut him out of the background, and if we do that, you'll see it creates a second layer, and whatever color you had set to your background color, it will create a gap of him on the original layer. I don't suggest doing this because you're damaging, or you're being destructive to the original content, and we never want to edit in a destructive manner in Photoshop, because we want to have the control to go back and maybe tweak something from the original that we missed before. So you can right click again and you can hit layer via copy, and what you'll notice is we have our guy, he's nicely cut out, but we also have the original fully still intact, and that's a great option to have sitting there as well. The final way that we could do this, if we really wanted to, with our selection still in play, you can come down here to your tools bar on the bottom right corner in the layers panel, and you can just mask him out. and you can see it creates a perfectly editable mask over beside the layer. It's linked to it, and we can go in and we can actually continue to refine this mask even more if we wanted to, and it'll just give you a lot more control. So personally, I'd recommend doing layer via copy or just creating a mask. Those are the two best options when cutting somebody out. And if you really want to just gauge how good your crop job was, you can take your background color swatch here and fill it to something that is not necessarily the same color palettes as your selected image. In this case, a nice light blue should work. You could also use like a key green, like a nice vibrant green. And I just want to hit Command Backspace and fill my background with that bright color swatch. And you can see along the edge of his hair, it looks really great. There's not really a whole lot of odd cropping going on. Like, it's not like I'm just going to go in and adjust my mask. You guys don't have to follow along with this, but it's not like we specifically, left off a huge chunk of his hair because we didn't know how to refine that edge, and it doesn't look really crappy like that. We had a very good mask, and you can see these really nice detailed sort of sections of his hair, which when you're cutting someone out, it just really makes it a super believable cutout, and you could put him into any scene and it would look really great. So that's how to cut out someone who has a really clean set of hair. It's pretty simple. I'm going to walk you guys through how to do a fizzier hair, a more like crazy hair. And there's a little bit more finesse involved there. So I'll catch you guys in the next video and we'll go through that. See ya.